So today we are going to be talking on plagiarism in health research. We are going to be understanding, detecting, and preventing academic misconduct. So our presentation is going to respect the outline below. We're going to start from the learning objectives right down to our institutional roles. So for the learning objectives, by the end of this session, you'll be able to define plagiarism and explain its forms. That's explaining the different forms of plagiarism. We're going to understand the causes and the consequences of plagiarism. That's all the repercussions that come with plagiarism. We'll identify how plagiarism is detected using the various plagiarism detection tools. And we'll also apply strategies to avoid plagiarism in our work. So we're going to look at some shocking real-world examples of academic misconduct. So the first one here, we have Eric Foreman. He falsified data in 10 plus papers and 17 grants applications. It resulted to retraction of his papers and he paid a fine of $180,000, after which he was sent to prison. We also have Andrew Wakefield. Fraudulent study linking MMR vaccine to autism. His license were revoked, the articles were retracted, and this sparked vaccine hesitancy in crisis. More examples, we have Antoinette, who falsified data in genomic cancer research at the Duke University. So you can imagine someone falsifying data on a cancer research and how many lives could be on the line. He also misled clinical trials, which resulted in retraction and institutional penalties. We have Dong Han, who fabricated HIV vaccine data, who was sentenced to 57 months in prison and had a fine of $7 million to pay. We also had Oliver Voigtnet and many others. We could always check online to see some of those who practice this academic misconduct. Now, why does this topic matter? Why are we studying plagiarism? Why are we talking about plagiarism? First, is because of integrity. Integrity is the foundation of scientific progress. What is integrity? Integrity is just doing the right thing when no one is watching. You're doing the right thing because it is the right thing to be done. It is what is ethically correct and not because anyone is watching you or not because you're under any pressure to satisfy any other person. So the most important thing under this topic is integrity. The next thing, plagiarism undermines trust and credibility. When you plagiarize, you do not credit the people, the original authors that have been working on that material. So you discredit them. So it undermines trust and credibility in academia, which is very, very bad. Increasing pressure to publish heightens the risk of plagiarism. We're going to see that ahead as we go further with the presentation. Now, what is plagiarism as a whole? It originates from the Latin word plagiarus, which means kidnapper, essentially translating into intellectual theft. So plagiarism refers to the act of using someone's idea. That means you take somebody's idea, you take someone's content, and you take credit for it without acknowledging the original authors and researchers. You take an idea from an article, you take a content from an article, and you do not acknowledge the person who originally worked on that article. You bring that idea as a new idea. You bring the content as if it is yours that you fabricated, whereas you took it from another article and you do not acknowledge that person. That's what we call plagiarism, hence intellectual theft. Like in the cartoon representation that we are seeing on our left, on our right, we are seeing someone who has been working on a paper, then another person just comes in, steals the idea and uses it as his. So plagiarism is a very, very bad academic misconduct, which has severe consequences. Aside plagiarism, we have data fabrication and data falsification that are part of the three cardinal sins of scientific misconducts. Most people who plagiarize will also practice data fabrication and data falsification, and these are going to lead to bad results, and we know what that can do to research as a whole. Some examples, we have copying and pasting text without proper citation. We copy text exactly word for word from an article, then you paste in your work, and you do not properly cite the authors and co-authors. You reuse your work without proper disclosure, and you also fail to paraphrase properly. Now, who are those who are mostly involved in the act of plagiarism? We have students and early career researchers. We have students in the undergraduate programs, in the postgraduate programs, in early career researchers. Yeah, those are most of these people are under the people who are mostly involved in practicing plagiarism. But even with the clear rules and detailed guidelines, we have ethical that guides ethical misconduct. Ethical misconduct still happens because we have rules, we have guidelines, there are papers, there are articles that will help us to not practice ethical misconduct, but yet ethical misconduct still happens. And now what is the result when this happens? It leads to lasting harm to academic trust and research credibility. When the ethical misconducts are so much, like we have the falsification, the fabrication, and the plagiarism, when it is a lot, there is going to be lack of trust in academia and research credibility. So even those who are working on the ground, even those who are doing the real work, they are not going to be trusted because of those who practice ethical misconduct. So in the former slide, we're seeing those who were mostly involved in plagiarism, which were students and early career researchers. So on to the next slide, we now have to see why these people plagiarize. Why do people plagiarize? Firstly, we have poor training in research writing. When you do not have enough training in research writing, where you don't know the ins and the outs of research writing, you don't know the cons and pros of research writing, you can easily practice ethical misconduct. You can easily be involved in plagiarism. Then we have pressure to publish. Like we have the publish or perish. So many people are under so much pressure to publish. They want their articles out there. They want their names to be seen in publication houses. And then they go further to publish these articles without taking their time to probably work on it and know what it takes in order to publish an article. We have lack of training in academic integrity. As we saw in the former slide, integrity is a very important aspect in research. When there is lack of academic integrity, there is a space for academic misconduct, with plagiarism being one of them, which is very essential. We also have language barriers. With language barriers, it's very common to do copy and paste, because when you copy and paste, you just translate and you just translate directly to your preferred language without paraphrasing properly. We also have lack of mentorship. In the research field, we are always told that it's very essential to have a mentor ahead of you, someone you can meet and have academic advice from, there you can have tips from on how to go along with your research writing, on how to go along with publishing your paper, on how to go along with submitting an article for publication. But so many people do not have research mentors. So many people do not go up to their seniors in the research field to ask for advice that regards research and publication. So it's going to lead to plagiarism at a point. We also have misconception about what constitutes plagiarism. A lot of researchers, a lot of students do not understand the in-depth of plagiarism. A lot of them do not know the consequences and the repercussions that comes with plagiarism as well. Yeah. So we're going to go to the forms of plagiarism. We have the types. We have direct plagiarism. That's copying text word for word without citation. You go to online, you search an article, you go to the text, you copy and you paste in your work without properly citing the author. That's plagiarism. That's direct plagiarism. Then we have mosaic plagiarism. That's borrowing phrases or structure without proper credit. You borrow someone's phrase, you borrow without properly citing that person. Then we have self-plagiarism. You're reusing your own work without disclosure, your previous work without properly disclosing that you had used this material before. You're bringing it up as a new idea year after year. That's self-plagiarism. Then we have accidental plagiarism as well. That's like unintentional citation errors or close paraphrasing. Like you don't paraphrase well, you unintentionally do not cite, or you have errors in citation, you do not cite properly. That's accidental plagiarism. Then we have idea plagiarism, which is like stealing someone else's concept or hypothesis. You steal someone's concept, you steal someone's idea, and you bring it out as yours to make people know that you are the creative director of that idea. Yeah, that's idea plagiarism, whereas it is someone else's without giving credit to that person, without involving the person in that paper. That's self-plagiarism. So what are some of the real world consequences that you can face when you plagiarize? You can result to retraction of publications. Your paper can be rejected when they discover that you plagiarized. Then career damage and job loss. For those who work in research institutions, you might lose your job because of plagiarism, because that is a very serious offense in academia and research as a whole. It damages your career, it gives you a bad name, and nobody will want to trust you again, that you can do something without forging. Yes, you can also lose funding and the reputation. Imagine that you've sourced for funding for a particular research and your funders get hold of the fact that you are plagiarizing or you are practicing academic misconduct. All of them, three of them, the three cardinal ones, you're practicing them. Your funders will not trust you. They will not trust whatever you're bringing to them. And the money that they are inputting in that research, they will not see the need to be funding that research again. And now you're going to lose the funding. You're going to have a bad reputation. You're not going to have good recommendations. And that's a very bad thing for your research career. You can also have legal implications, like in the real world examples we've seen in the previous slides. You can be locked in prison. Fines can be put on you up to millions, like $7 million, like we saw, hundreds of thousands of dollars and all. It also has an impact on co-authors, editors, and institutions. So plagiarism really has a deep impact in the academic world, which should really be avoided. Now we go to the plagiarism detection tools. I've listed some below, but we can always go online to search for some. The first one is the Authenticate. The Authenticate is probably mostly used by publishers, and it is a plagiarism detection tool that checks academic papers, it checks articles and other written contents for originality. Yeah, we have ET Blast. It finds exact matches between two articles in several databases. We also have Turnitin, which is also another plagiarism detection tool, mostly used in academic institutions. We have PlaqueScan. PlaqueScan is also used by educators, researchers, and writers to ensure originality and also maintain academic integrity. Yeah, because we've been talking about integrity, which is very important in research. We have Grammarly, we have Critex, and what have you. So we could always go online and we check more on some of these detection tools. Some of these tools, automated tools have flag similarities, but human judgment is essential in plagiarism. As early career researchers and students, undergraduate, postgraduate students, how do we avoid plagiarism? So I've come up with some points, the do's and the don'ts of plagiarism. So for the do's, you take clear notes during research. You make sure your notes are clear. And for the don'ts, you avoid copying and pasting without credit. Yes. Then for the do's, the next point, we paraphrase properly and you rewrite in your own words. Always learn how to paraphrase properly, you rewrite in your own words. And for the just don't swap words without understanding. Make sure you read when you see a paper, you read that paper, you understand what the paper is saying before you paraphrase. Don't just swap words without properly understanding what it is talking about. The next, you cite all sources. You can use APA, you can use Vancouver. Yeah, those are referencing styles. Then for the don't, do not reuse your own work without disclosure. We saw this under the types of plagiarism. This is like self-plagiarism. Don't reuse your own work without proper disclosure, without letting the readers know that the work has been used before. Then use plagiarism checkers before submission. Like we have seen in the previous slide, the various plagiarism tools, detection tools that could be used. Always use plagiarism checkers before submission. Then do not assume common knowledge applies to everything. Yes, do not take one concept and try to apply it on everything you're doing. Always be flexible and be open for new ideas as well. That goes with your work and your topic. Ask for help when unsure. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to have a mentor in the research field, someone you could walk up to and ask questions. It means no harm. Someone who could guide you into doing the right thing. Yeah, so always ask for help when you're unsure. Then do not wait for the last minute before you write your paper. Don't be under pressure. Do not be under the publish or perish. Do not be under the pressure to write at the last minute. You want to publish in this publishing at this particular time. Take your time, research, meet mentors, speak to people, have ideas, and come up with something good to maintain academic integrity. So we have some few tips of ethical writing. Understand what needs citation. It's not everything that you cite. You should have to understand what you need to copy. You have to understand what you need to paraphrase, and you need to understand what you need to cite, and also cite properly. Quote when using exact words. Like if somebody said in quotes, plagiarism is one of the three cardinal points for academic misconduct. Put it in quotes because this was Mr. Paul's exact words. Don't take it and put it as if it is those were your words, as if it's something you brought up. Those were another person's words, and it's good that you bring it up and you put it in quotes that it should be shown that it was from another person. That's why they say you should quote when using exact words from another author. Acknowledge co-authors properly. It takes us to citing properly. Then disclose use of previous work, still refusing the self-plagiarism thing. So if you use your previous work, you should always ensure that you disclose the reuse of your previous work. They should also keep track of your references with citation managers. Now, what is the institutional role in prevention? What is the role of an institution in preventing plagiarism? We have it in 4 steps. That's the policy, training, enforcement, and mentorship. Under policy, we have to establish, the institution is supposed to establish clear guidelines on research misconducts, like coming up with guidelines on research misconducts, the do's and the don'ts. Like, don't do this, you should do this in order to have a good research at the end of the day. Then training. After the institution has come up with these policies by establishing clear guidelines on research misconduct, they should train the students or the employees on ethics and integrity. That means when you come up with a policy, you train those who are supposed to implement these things in the field. You train them, you provide regular education on ethics and integrity. So when you've trained them, now you are sure that they have the idea, they have the knowledge, and now you can go to enforcement by applying fair and consistent consequences for violation, because you cannot apply consequences for violation without training the students or your employees for an institution, for a research institution. So after training them, you make sure that you apply fair and consistent consequences for violation, so that they are going to be on track. They will know that if they go against these guidelines and policies that were put in place, they are going to be consequences. With that, they are going to be on guard and they're going to be more alert. The next one is mentorship. Foster a culture of support through peer and senior mentorship. And I'll keep emphasizing on the mentorship part, that it is very, very important to have a mentor in the research field. So we have policy, we have training, enforcement, and mentorship. In conclusion, plagiarism is a serious breach of academic integrity. When you plagiarize, there is a wound on academia, and it's going to bring mistrust. There's not going to be trust on academic papers, or it also undermines originality. Hence, understanding the different types helps avoid common mistakes. It undermines originality in the case where you copy and paste someone's work without referencing the person. Just imagine working on a paper day and night, sleepless nights, researching, meeting people, having conversations. Then one day you see your work out there in another person's paper without you being properly cited. It's really going to be painful. So it undermines originality. So we should really try to avoid plagiarism as much as we can. Also, we use detection tools but prioritize ethical practices. While using plagiarism detection tools, you should always prioritize ethical practices, because if you prioritize these ethical practices, I think you're going to minimize plagiarism to a greater extent, and which is really going to be good for the research community as a whole. Institutions and individuals must collaborate to prevent plagiarism. If there is no collaboration, the prevention is not going to take place, because if the institution is preventing and the individuals are not preventing, then the institution is wasting their time, and vice versa. So it's supposed to be a collaboration. They have to work together. They're supposed to understand the consequences of this academic misconduct, and they're supposed to come together and come to a common understanding that they need to prevent these things in order to have good results at the end of the day. So yeah, my references, and thank you for your keen attention.